Now we've learned about the operators as well. We're going to get started with the lists. Lists is a very useful part of Python because in a list you contain a lot of variables containing strings, integers, floats, or any other kind of objects. So it's going to contain a list of different objects. So let's create a new file and call it list.py, and inside of it we're going to define a list. So for example, a equals s, c, and for example we can define a string v. Also, let's turn these letters into strings because without them they are going to sound like variables, and because they're not declared yet, Python says that it's an error. You can also write 3 inside it. We can also write another list inside of this list. So you might say that this sounds strange, but it's possible. So if I want to print this list, let's see what happens. It's going to print out what we want. List.py. So okay, it's lists actually, lists.py. Okay, as you can see here, we've got the list. It has all of the objects inside it, and if I want to see the position of one of these objects, for example, I want to see what is placed inside the position of 2 of the list, I will write a brackets 2, and it will show me v. So it starts from 0, 0, 1, 2, 3, and 4. So if I want to know the I want to find 3 here, I should write 0, 1, 2, 3, and 4, and so it's 4, and inside it there is another array, and I should here write 1 because we want to find 3. This is 0 and 1. So there's a list inside the list. So we first find the list, which is the 4th position, and 3 is inside this list that we found, and it's in the 2nd position, which holds for the number 1 inside it, because it starts from 0, 0, 1, and 2. So let's save the script and run it. Python list.py, and as you can see, it shows 3 here. If I want to find 5, I can write here 2. Save the code, Python list.py, and as you can see, we have 5. And so for you to better understand this, I should first write A4, and let's find the list first, and inside the list we want to see 5, the position 2 of the list, which is 5. So like I said before, we can put anything inside of this list, and for example we can also write my list equals true, so it's a boolean, and the next one we can write 2. We can also we can also put a here, which is this list, okay, and it makes things much more interesting because there is a list inside the list and another list is in that list. so it becomes somehow complicated and somehow also interesting. So and here you can write the name of a person, a string file. So here we have boolean, integer, a list, a string, and also we can write a float, 3.65. And so let's print this one. Let's print my list and print my list and see what happens. Okay, here as you can see we have true, 2. It also prints the list A, which was here, and Jack and 3.65, Jack and 3.65. Interesting. So I also want to access 5 from my list. So how to write it? My list 0, 1, 2. So first we write 2, second we write 4, and then we write 2. Okay, the result should be 5. So let's save the code and see the results. As you can see, it prints 5 here. Okay, that's it. There are moments when we want to find the length of this list. To do that, we simply write, so let's define it, length of list, and here we write len of my list. So guess a number, what is the length of the list. So 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. Notice that because we have a list here, we shouldn't say that, for example, in this list we have 5 items, so we add 5 with 4 and then it becomes 9. No, that's not true. This is a list, this is also an object, so we calculate it by the number of objects inside this list, and we disregard anything else which is inside that object, whether it's a list or a string, a longer string, a very big integer, float, boolean, whatever that is. We don't want to know what is inside it. We just want to know how many objects exist in that list. So if I save this code and print, also we need to print length of list, and so let's save this and run the code. As you can see, it says 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay, and so let me change this one to 0 so that we don't have 2 5s and you mix them up. So again, as you can see, it's 1 here and 5, which is the length of this list. So up to here I've told you how to access an object from a list, how to calculate the length of the list, how to define a list. Notice that in Python we have different kinds of collections, and a list is one of these collections. We have dictionaries, we have tuples, we have arrays. So list is one of these collections, and later in these tutorials we're going to tell you how we can deal with the dictionaries, arrays, and also tuples. So now here, just the same as the strings, imagine that we want to have a sublist of this list. So for example, we want to have these objects as a list, and we want to have it in another list. So to do that, we write b equals a, and just the same as the strings here, we write the ones that we like. For example, write 1 up to 4, and we can save this 1, 2, 3, and let's see what happens. I think this one should be 3. So let's see what happens. We also need to print B, and run the code. And as you can see here, we've got only 2 of them, so it should be up to 4, and the 4th one will not be considered here. 1, 2, 3, and the 4th one is this one, but this one will not be contained in this B. Okay, and so let's save the code and rerun it. As you can see here, we've got C, V, and 3. Okay, and consider that, for example, we want this from 1 up to the end, write B, or for example, C equals A, and from 1 up to the end, so we can write B and C. So let's save this one and print the listed pi. As you can see here, it's C, V, 3, and 1, 2, 3 for the list. Okay, and also imagine that we want this for, okay, let's declare it as D and A. So from the beginning, so it starts from the beginning up to the 5th one, up to the actually 4th one. So we want S, C, and V, or for example up to the 3rd one. So we will only want the strings here, 0, 1, 2, and 3. So up to the 3rd one. And here we can print D as well. So let's save this one and print it. And as you can see here, it's been printed out as S, C, and V. Now you might ask, what if we write a negative number inside of this? For example, we write E equals A, and inside of it we write -1. So let's save this one and run the code. And so we also need to print E here. Save this and run it. And what it's going to show you is the last part of this list, which is 1, 2, 3, and 5, which is another list. This one is A -1, which is the last one, which is the same as writing, for example, F equals A, and define a position as the 4th one. And here we can, let's write F and save the code, Python, and here you can see the very same result as 1, 3, and 5. So these two are the equivalent of each other here, because we have 5 objects inside a string is starting from 0, and this one is the last one. So if you write -1, it equals 4, and if you write -2, it will equal 3, and -2 equals 2, and so on and so forth. And so we can use negative numbers to define the position, which will start from the ending of the list up to the start, to the beginning.